Most teenagers and their parents argue from time to time, usually about grades, school attendance, or who they are dating. This was the case with Katya Marie Lyne and her father, Pat Lyne. Katya, who attended Auburn High School, was skipping class and her grades were slipping. Pat wanted Katya to transfer to Federal Way High School, which was nearby, but Katya would not have it. Katya snuck out of the apartment she shared with her father around 9 p.m. on March 21, 1997. Katya was never seen again. What happened to Katya Lyne? Disclaimer: we are not healthcare or law enforcement professionals. Comments in this episode are based on our own research from the internet and other sources. We work hard for accuracy, but sometimes still make mistakes. You are free to disagree with our conclusions. Please comment. The details of any missing person case are often difficult for families. Please be sensitive when you make comments. Tracy Lyne, Katya's older sister, who was attending Seattle Pacific University, headed back to her father's apartment in Federal Way. There was no sign of Katya when she arrived. Tracy contacted Katya's friends, but no one had heard from her. Pat reported Katya missing on March 23, 1997. Katya's father's life was falling apart at the time of Katya's disappearance. He had lost his job at Boeing and he had no savings and no car. His marriage to Trudy Lyne had come to an end after 27 years. Trudy was recovering from breast cancer. Then Katya, who by all accounts was close to her father, went missing. Pat Lyne would take his own life on March 25, 1997, only 4 days after Katya disappeared. Katya's sister, Tracy Lyne, didn't believe Katya's friends, who all stated they hadn't heard from Katya. After her father passed, she was sure they weren't lying. Some have speculated that Katya had returned home between March 21st and March 25th, and finding her father deceased, she fled the Federal Way area, never to return. It is also speculated that Pat had tried to take his life 3 weeks earlier. He was in a head-on collision with a truck on Highway 18, but walked away under his own power. There have been a few unconfirmed sightings of Katya after March 21, 1997, in Midway, Puyallup, and Seattle, Washington. Tracy was attending college on a gymnastics scholarship, which she lost due to an injury. For a short time, she made her living painting houses. The rest of the time, she was looking for Katya. Katya wasn't one to just up and leave without telling a friend where she'd be, said Alicia Tubbs, who was close to her. Tubbs joined Tracy in the search for Katya, which often extended late into the night and into sketchy areas, she said. Since this was an era before the internet and smartphones, there wasn't much that could be done in terms of online social media. Tracy and Alicia Tubbs handed out thousands of flyers at the Mariners games. The Mariners are Seattle's professional baseball team. No solid leads were found. When Tracy called the police, they referred to her sister by the case number. Tracy found the workings of the police confusing, so she volunteered for a year in 1998 in the Missing Persons Unit. Losing her sister and her father in such a short time was difficult for Tracy and her family. It would be 5 years before they were able to talk about any possible connection between her father's suicide and her sister going missing. "It's the not knowing that is the hardest," Tracy said, "because you don't know how to grieve." In 2000, Tracy moved to Oregon to get on with her life. She attended college and ended up working at the Lane County Sheriff's Department in the Records Division. Detective Lee Leedy of the Federal Way Police Department did a thorough investigation into Katya's disappearance. He talked to Katya's friends, teachers, and acquaintances. He found no evidence that Katya had been abused by her father or any connection between Katya's disappearance and her father's suicide. Leedy ordered the areas where Katya frequented searched by cadaver dog teams. The dogs didn't get any hits in these areas. Recently, DNA has solved many cold cases, including the Golden State Killer, but this technology wasn't available in 1997. In a stroke of luck, Katya's mother Trudy kept her baby teeth, and Katya's DNA was extracted from them. Katya's DNA was entered into tracking databases. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is staffed by retired investigators. They reviewed Katya's case to see if they could uncover missing details, but their review didn't find anything new. What happened to Katya Lyne? As we always say, we can't answer that question, but we do have some theories. Sometimes, when doing research, you make connections you wish you hadn't. This was one of those times. What we found made us sad and fear for Katya's life. If the BNF team made this connection, we hope that the police have done the same and eliminated it. But there is no other information regarding this in any of the sources we found about Katya's case. A serial killer named Gary Ridgway, who also went by the moniker the Green River Killer, because he dumped many of his victims near the Green River in Auburn, Washington, was heavily active in the early 1980s. Ridgway is not nearly as famous as Ted Bundy, but far more deadly. It's widely believed that he first began his killing spree in 1982, starting with a 16-year-old girl who had run away from her foster home. Ridgway, who claimed his profession was killing young women, took his last known victim in 1998, so he was still active at the time of Katya's disappearance. Ridgway is charged with killing 49 women, 4 of which were initially unidentified. In terms of victimology, Katya closely fits his profile. He preyed on young women, especially vulnerable runaways and prostitutes, mostly in the South King County, Washington area where he grew up, lived, and worked. This includes the cities of Auburn, Kent, Federal Way, Des Moines, and Renton. In 2011, a 49th body was found that was linked to Ridgway, which added yet another life sentence to his prison term. 12 years later, in December 2023 and January 2024, 2 sets of remains linked to the Green River Killer were finally identified as 15-year-old Lori Ann Ratspotnick and 16-year-old Tammy Lyles. He was arrested in 2001 and at the time convicted to 48 life sentences without the possibility of parole. He had the habit of leaving chewing gum and cigarettes at the crime scene. Ridgway didn't smoke or chew gum. He did this to throw off the police. For tampering with crime scenes, he received 10 extra years per sentence, or an additional 480 years. Ridgway has confessed to 71 murders. However, the police have only confirmed 49 of them. If Ridgway did take Katya, he is not telling. Katya's father killed himself 4 days after she disappeared, leading to speculation that he had something to do with her disappearance. In missing persons cases, the person closest to the victim are always the first to be suspected. Detective Lee Leedy of the Federal Way Police Department talked to family members, faculty at Katya's school, and her friends. He found no evidence that Katya was abused by her father, and by all accounts, he and Katya were very close. The fact that Pat Lyne was worried about his daughter's grades seems more like a concerned father wanting his daughter to have a bright future. Pat Lyne was under a huge amount of stress, having lost his job, his marriage, and his daughter in such a short period of time. Sadly, his knowledge of his daughter's habits could have been a huge help to the investigation. Whether or not he knew anything about Katya's disappearance, that knowledge died with him, leaving the opening for continued conjecture. Katya was a beautiful young girl of El Salvadorian descent who at 15 was working as a model. Her young age and exotic look could have gotten the attention of human traffickers. Seattle is part of a trafficking circuit that includes other cities such as Honolulu, Las Vegas, New Orleans, Portland, Vancouver, and Yakima, Washington. It is also the endpoint of Interstate 90, which is also known to be a corridor for trafficking. Unfortunately, there are so few clues about her disappearance, it can't be concluded she was trafficked, but it also can't be ruled out. It has been theorized that Katya returned home sometime after March 25th and found her father had taken his own life. Feeling guilty that running away may have had something to do with her father's suicide, she left, never to return. If she did run away, how did she take care of herself? At 15, she wasn't even old enough to get a job. Katya was training to be a model and apparently did some modeling work, but outside of Seattle, she would have been unknown. It is also odd there were so few sightings of her after March 21st. Given these things, it is unlikely she ran away and stayed away, but still possible. In 1997, the internet was gaining popularity, but its penetration was not like today. It is unlikely that Katya had an online presence. She would have interacted with her friends at school or on a landline phone. Katya was of El Salvadorian descent and was adopted by the Lynes when she was 3 years old. She also has 3 dots tattooed on her left hand and the letter K tattooed on her right ankle. I couldn't find any information about the letter K being associated with El Salvadorian gangs, but the possibility has been discussed in internet forums. One podcast stated that the letter K in El Salvadorian prison stands for My Crazy Life and doesn't have direct affiliation to a specific gang. Per the police investigation, it doesn't look like Katya was associated with any dangerous people which may have endangered her life. It's hard to make a conclusion in this case. There are so few clues or sightings of her since the day she left her apartment, which leads to endless speculation. But it also leads you to believe she may have been met with foul play. I hope she is out there happy somewhere running her own modeling agency. Please comment. Katya Marie Lyne was born on November 28, 1981. At the time of her disappearance, she was 15 years old. At the time of this episode, she would be 43. Katya is 5'3" and weighed 125 pounds. Katya has a mole above the right corner of her mouth, 3 dots tattooed on her left hand, and the letter K tattooed on her right ankle. Her right nostril is pierced, and she may dye her hair another color. Katya may appear much older than her true age, possibly as much as 7 or 8 years. She is of El Salvadorian descent and has Hispanic features, but may sometimes appear to be Asian. She had a dental retainer at the time of her disappearance, but left it behind. If you know anything about the disappearance of Katya Lyne, call the Federal Way Police Department at 253-661-4600. Katya Lyne is missing but not forgotten. Help us get more coverage for missing people. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and see you soon.